Hello crafters. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really simple, easy little pony unicorn pouch. And if you're making one for your sister, you might want to use this cream color yarn. If you're making one for your brother, you might want to use brown yarn. But here's what you will need for today. You will need a couple of plastic crochet needles. You will need some gold yarn, pink yarn, cream yarn, and brown yarn. And for the gold yarn, I'm kind of cheating a little bit. I'm using this Angelo Decoration Austria yarn. It's actually a ribbon yarn, but it's really fun and it's really cool, strong, and I'm going to use it to make the unicorn point. So let's get started. It's really very easy. Make sure you have two different types of crochet hooks. You can use one if you want, if you don't have more than that. I am using an E and an F. And to begin the body shape, which the body shape looks like this, we are going to use our F and thread it with your cream or your brown yarn to get ready with your pony. Now this assumes you have a little bit of sewing experience and a little bit of crocheting experience. If you have neither, I'm going to go slow for a couple of stitches, and then you can probably still follow. If you are a crafter of any kind, you'll pick this up very easily. So go ahead and thread your crochet hook. If you don't know how to do that, a very simple way is you wrap it around the back, wrap it around the front, wrap it around, and thread it. And I'm going to do that again for you, because one of the things you want to do is, this is called the tail, the yarn that's left behind. For this project, you want to make sure you leave a lot of yarn. So I'm going to wrap it around from the back again and wrap it around from the front and slide it on. Make sure your loop on your hook is neither too tight nor too loose, because you need to have clean consecutive stitching. And now you've got this long tail on the bottom. So go ahead and stitch. We're going to do 12 chains. So go ahead and count 12 chains for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, if you don't know how to chain, it's simply wrapping your yarn around your hook. 11, wrapping it around and pulling it through. So you should count, make sure you count and you have 12. Now, one of those chains that you just counted on the 12, your crochet needle is in. The next one you're going to skip. So you're going to go into that third one counting the one that your crochet hook is in, because that's very important. So it's technically 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go into the third one. Did you see that? 1 with the one you're on, 2, and then the third one. But what we're going to do for this exercise is, we're not going to just go through it and slip chain it. We're going to go and do what's called a half double crochet. So I just showed you which chain we're going to go in. Now I'm going to show you the stitch we're going to use. And this is pretty much going to be the stitch throughout this entire project for conformity. And this would be a great Girl Scout project. It would also be great for a patrol leader. If you need a sewing badge, this would be an awesome project. So go ahead and wrap it around. And again, I showed you where the chain was that we're going to go into. And you're going to pull your hook through that chain and pull it through. Now, you should have 3 loops on your crochet hook. Shouldn't be too tight or too loose. Wrap it around again and pull it through. So that's your first crochet stitch. Now you're going to do that again, and you're going to do that all the way across to make that round 1. So that's going to be considered round 1. So you're going to wrap it around, and going into the next stitch, you're going to pull it through. You have 3, wrap it around and pull it through. That's called a half double crochet. And we're going to do that all the way across using your cream color or your brown yarn. and you can follow me. Pause this until you can get it done. But it's half double crochet into each stitch across. Now when you get to the end, I'm having a little problem with my yarn today because it's pulling. When you get to the end, I want you to count your stitches for me. And I'm pulling from the back because it's very easy. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you want 10 stitches, and you want to go ahead and do a chain and turn your work. So if you have 10 stitches, you've done that correctly. You want to end up with 10, and there's the 10th one is that little tiny one at the very end there. Now, chain 1, as I said, don't go into the one you chained, but we're going to do another half double crochet in round 2. And at the end of round 2, you should have 10 stitches. The same thing that you had when you started your work. And if you want to crochet with me, you can. I was just trying to unravel my yarn a little bit here. We'll count together again, and when you get to the end, there's a little bit of a trick if you haven't crocheted before. I just want to make sure that you don't miss your loops, because when I was a newbie, see this loop down here, and then there's a loop in the back. You want to make sure you don't miss the 2 loops, the front and the back loop. I've had so many crocheters just go into this front loop here. So when you wrap around your yarn, make sure you're picking up the front and the back loop, which is kind of like hidden itself back there, so that when you're pulling that through and you're doing that last double crochet, that is so even. See how nice and even? If you only pick up the front loop, your work is not going to be even, and you want it to be nice and even. So make sure you pick up the front and the back loop. Do a chain. Now, every time you end a row, folks, you're going to chain 1. So if I don't say that to you, every single time we do a row, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and move forward through this entire project. In the 3rd row, you're going to do the same thing again, and you're going to make sure you have 10 half double crochets when you get to the end. You want 10. If you do not have 10, go back and check your work and make sure you start again until you have 10. And you're working through the back and the front loop, creating half double crochets. And again, when I get to the end there, it's not this one, these 2 you're picking up. It's this one and that one. It's curled under. So see how you have this nice little one right here. You have to pick up that one, and then you have to go in the back. Oh, I'm off the camera. Sorry. You have to pick up this one and that one, go through, pull it through, and then you've got that. Okay, so the 4th row, round 4, is different. So round 4 is going to be chain, always chain 1, turn it. We're going to reduce the stitches now. So if you've counted and you have 10, we're going to do a stitch reduction on a half double crochet. Pay close attention. You're still going to wrap it around and go through like you're doing a half double crochet and pull that through. But when you've got the 3 loops, instead of taking it and wrapping it around and finishing that, you're not going to finish that. You're going to go through the 2nd chain, pull that through, and if you count, you should have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Count, and you should have 4 on your crochet hook. Wrap it around and pull it through all 4. That's called a half double crochet chain reduction. And when you do a reduction in stitches, you can use a lot of different stitches, but we're doing a half double chain reduction. So that's our first. Now for the next stitches right in here until we get to the last two, we're going to do a half double crochet. So do a regular half double crochet in the next one, a regular half double crochet in the next one, half double crochet, half double crochet. And if you're working right along with me, then that's good. And you don't want to finish this until the last two on this, the very last two. That got a little tight. And the other thing is, if you mess up or something doesn't work just right or look perfect, just take it undone. It's not a problem. So the last two, see that funky little chain? Make sure you're picking up the right stitch, okay? So you're not picking up this loop, you're picking up these two loops. So you're going to wrap it around, pull it through that crochet, pull it back through, and you have 3. 1, 2, 3, that crochet chain. Now your last one, again, is a little tricky, so you want to reduce it, but you're going to go through that loop and that loop. Do you see? So you didn't pick up that loop in the front there because it kind of curls under. You've got 4 on there, and you want to pull it through. If you don't do it properly, you're not going to get a nice smooth edge like I'm doing right now. So that was the end of round 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Round 5. Round 5, you're going to chain 1 again, like I always said, and you're going to just do a half double crochet, and you should have 8. If you don't have 8, then you've done something wrong, and you need to go back and check your work, Girl Scouts, or friends, or crafters. This is going to be a great badge project. I can just envision it. Okay, so again, that last stitch is always a little bugger stitch. Okay, that's the end of round 5. Round 6, we're going to reduce. So you should have 8. Count them with the little one at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8. Chain 1. Now what you're going to do is you're going to reduce again. And when you reduce, we're going to end up with 6 stitches. So a half double, you're going to wrap it around. We're going to do a half double crochet, almost do a half double crochet. We're going to pull that through, and you have 3. Then go ahead and just put your hook through that next stitch. You have 4. Wrap it around, and voila, you've reduced. And just want to make, I'm using kind of a little bit of a fuzzy yarn, and sometimes that fuzzy yarn sticks. So the next one is a regular half double crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet, and when you get to the last 2 stitches, we're going to reduce. So we have 2 stitches here, so we're going to wrap it around, pull it through, count 1, 2, 3, and that little bugger stitch, remember, don't pick up this front piece right there, because if you do, it'll look funny. You want to make sure you're picking up the right pieces on your work. You're going to chain 1, and your work should start looking something like this. If it's not, so we should count your rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and round 7, you're going to turn your work. You've done a chain, and you're going to just do half double crochets all the way across. Make sure at the end you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that last little booger stitch. Again, he's a little booger. He wants to hide on me all the time, that stitch. There. So you've ended round 7 right there, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You should have 6 half double crochets at the end of round 7. You want to chain, and now 8 and 9 we're going to reduce. Okay, I'm going to help you reduce again. Wrap it around, go through the first one, pull it through, and you're not going to wrap it around for the second one. You pull it through and you've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're only wrapping it around that first stitch before you reduce. The next one is a half double crochet. The next one is a half double crochet. So you're reducing at the ends. So wrap it around, pull it through. You've got 3. And that little booger stitch, get it in there. Can I slide it in there? Oh, there, I got it. So you should have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's starting to get a little tight now. So chain 1, because you're getting down to the little mouth of your unicorn. Now you should have 4 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4. You are going to reduce both stitches. Get that little booger stitch. You know what? I missed that loop. So let's do that half double again. I'm going to wrap it around, pull it through, and that's that little stitch. You got to get those last 2, and you should have 4. It should make it really tight. So that's what it kind of should look like. By the time you get done, you've really pulled it tight. And what I tend to do is on this side right here, I work up a slip stitch. You don't have to. You can just cut it off if you want to. But the reason I work up a slip stitch is it gives it, that little horse, the unicorn, a nice little face. So I'm going to leave a nice long tail. Oh, I got some pink yarn. Disregard my pink yarn. I'm trying to work in a small space here. Okay, so maybe I'm trying to lift that up a little bit for you guys. So I hope that's a little bit better. So what you've got here is you've got the first flap of your unicorn face. And what you're going to go ahead and do for me is you're going to repeat that pattern so that when you come back here, you've got 2 unicorn faces, because you're going to put them together, and I'm going to show you how to stitch them together. So if you can do that for me, if you can pause this and go back, you should have 9 rows all together. So I'm going to go over quickly with you. Your first rows are 12. But when you turn, you chain 12 and you turn it and you crochet, you should have 10 across. You do 3 rows of that 10. Your 4th row, you're reducing 1 on each side down to 8 chains. Then you're doing a half double crochet. In row 6, you're reducing on the ends. In row 7, you're doing a half double crochet. And in 8 and 9, you're reducing. So you should have something that looks like that. All right, so when you've done both of those, pause this and come back. Now we're going to do the little pink face. I'm switching crochet needles. I'm going down to a size E, and I'm using a little thinner yarn. Now, here's the trick. If you're not using a thinner yarn, you don't want to do as many stitches as I'm doing, because it will be too wide for this. So if you're using the same size yarn that you did for this unicorn, what you're going to do is your little pink, on a pony, if you look at My Little Pony, they have a little pink face down here. So right under this right here is where I'm working the little face in. So if you look at the number of stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on here. Well, it's actually, it's 8 stitches on here before we reduce to 6. You're going to probably want to do 8 stitches and do a reduction, just like we did on this, in order to put your face across. But if you're using a smaller face, like what I'm using with this, I'm going to chain 14. So I'm going to go ahead and get it on my size E needle. And go ahead and chain 14 for me, folks. 2. This is very soft. You got baby yarn. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, when you've got to that 14, we're going to do the same thing we did with this face. We're going to count in 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do a half double crochet into the third one, into the third loop. If, in fact, you're using the same yarn, you're going to have less stitches. If you're using a thinner yarn like what I'm doing, you're going to do 14. If you're using the thicker yarn, you need to do 10, because when you skip a stitch and move in, you need to end up with 8 chains. I hope that makes sense. So we're doing a half double crochet. This is not new. This is the same. This is a very repetitive pattern. And I've made it that way. I did this pattern myself, and I made it this way so that there's different ways that you can do things, but I made it this way so I made it easy for beginning crocheters to be able to do a cute little project. So when you get to the end, you're going to reduce every single stitch across, because that's what makes this little fan piece right here that you're going to put across your work, so that you have that pony face. So chain 1 if you haven't chained 1, and you're going to reduce. And the way you reduce is the same way we've always talked about it. Wrap it around, pull it through both the front and the back loop, pull it through, you have 3. No wrapping around for the second. You pull it in, pull the yarn through, you have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrap it around, slide it through. We're going to reduce the next one. Wrap it around, pull it through. 3, slide it through, pull it through. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrap it around. You can see it's starting to already pull in. So wrap it around, pull it through. You should be reducing every stitch. This is not a half double crochet. This is a half double crochet reduction with every stitch. Your work should look something like that when you get to the end. If it doesn't, you've done something wrong. Now, the next row, you're just going to do a simple, after you chain 1, you're going to do a half double crochet across. So chain 1, half double crochet. All the way across, folks. Just a regular half double crochet like we did with the face. And if you've done both sides of the face, then you're kind of an expert now at doing these half double crochets. This is a very fine yarn that I'm working with. Remember that I call that the little bugger at the end, because he doesn't not want to. So chain 1 after you've done with that row. So after you've done that and you've done a half double crochet, you want to go ahead and do another row of half double crochets. Get the little booger worked in, the little bugger at the end, and chain 1. Now we're going to reduce. We're going to reduce, and this is going to be the last row of reduction. Get the little guy at the end, and tie off. So Again, if you want to slip stitch back in, and the reason that you create, you could actually do this after you sew the two pieces together, but I'm doing this now so that you can see I just messed up with the losing it on my hook. Sometimes if you lose it on your hook, you just pick it back up again and slip stitch. But I'm slip stitching up to make it easier on myself to work my tails back in. Okay, so you should have now two pieces, and you should have this piece. And I'm going to give you a hint. These little bumps on your horse right here, this last, you're just going to stitch this right under there like this. And the reason it's actually a little bigger than what this is because when you stitch these together and pop them open, it's going to pull on this a little bit. So we wanted to make it a little bit bigger. I decided to make this one a little bit bigger because the last one I did, it pulled and the face plate looked funny. So this is kind of like if you had a real pony, this is what the little face would look like. So now we're going to do the ears. Before we get anything together, is go back to your cream yarn. And it doesn't matter what order you're doing the ears in. If you want to do the ears before you do the face, I don't care, as long as you get all the elements together, and then I'm going to show you how to put them together. So go back to your cream yarn and go back to your F hook, please. Go ahead and get your yarn on your hook. Again, this is a fuzzy yarn, so I don't know why I pick such difficult yarns to work with. I guess I like difficult yarns. So you're going to go ahead and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to work into the chain next to you. So you're going to do a half double crochet in that chain, half double crochet in the next one, half double crochet in the next one, and I started to work my tail back in. I really didn't want to do that because I don't want to have to try to show you how to do working the tail back in right now, but I'm going to do it anyways. So when you get at the end of the rows, chain 1, and you should have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I worked my tail back in, so if you worked your tail back in, fine. If you didn't, we'll work it back in with a sewing needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to go ahead and chain 1 at the end, and you're going to work in 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to work in 4 half double crochets. So hopefully you had 4, and that's what I've got. You're going to do 4 half double crochets. So it's 5 stitches, and turn the chain, a half double, row of half double, and a half row of half double. Now your next one, you should have 4, chain 1, wrap it around, pull it through. Do not finish that half double crochet. We're reducing. And again, there's different ways to do this pattern. I've done this so that all of you guys, and then you chain. I'm going to slip stitch. Now, pull that off and turn it around, because your ear is actually going to sit this way. So even though you were working this way, that little middle piece is going to be your ear piece. So I've done another one like that. And so these are what I consider my ear pieces now. So yours should look something like that. And that'll be the top of the ear right here. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. We're going to create, if you want to make it a necklace, you can make it a necklace. So if you want to create a necklace and you want to create a necklace to go around this, I'm going to show you how to do that, but we're going to put the elements together right now. I'm going to help you with some of this, and then you're going to go off and do it on your own. So hopefully you left a very long tail. you want to put the two back sides of your work together. So whichever side in other words, whatever side you want to be the inside of your pouch, those are the two that we're going to, so we're going to put the nice side. So if you've got a nice side, you want to use that, and you want to use that. Use the nice side, and then that's because we're going to be turning it inside out, if you know what I mean. So go ahead and find your plastic crochet needle. I never use metal needles. Now, if you like metal needles, you can use them. But I have so many sores on the tops of my fingers from using metal needles. So I used my tail. So grab one of your tails, people, that you left on your little pony face. And at the very top, you've now threaded it. And you're going to go through and very easily, it's so much fun. You're going to just take the top 2 loops right here, and you're going to go through each stitch, and you can you know, double your yarn if you want to make it really secure. I'm going through both of my top stitches, and as I go down, there's no right or wrong answer. You just want to make sure wherever you pick up these stitches that they're uniform, because if you don't pick it up in the same place when you turn it around, sometimes it will look funny. So just make sure you pick the stitch up for sewing. And most of the mothers or the den mothers or the patrol leaders or the crafters, they're going to know how to sew, so they'll be able to help you girls out with this, and you'll be able to sew this together quite lovely. Now, here's, if you have extra tail too, and you left this long enough, sometimes I just stitch over that so that when I cut it, I don't knot it. And you don't never want to, I want to give you a hint. You never want to knot this project, because if you knot it, you can actually feel the knots in the material and it's just not fun. So if you're almost done with your sewing, again, I'm kind of like working some of these tails back through so that I can cut that one off when I get to the end here. And I may end up using some more yarn, because as long as I left that tail, I still don't think I left it long enough to finish to the end of this project. Darn it. The other thing you could do is you could measure, but the good news is I left the other tail nice and long. So what I'm going to do is, because I work this back in, folks, I'm going to cut this one right here. And I'm going to cut this one right here. And I'm going to cut this one. So the only one that I have left right now is that other tail on the other piece of the pony face that I stitched. So when you stitch both your pony faces, if you want to leave long tails for both of them, it's such a great idea. Okay, so I can start at the top again, and again, it's so seamless because you don't have any knots, you don't have any tie-offs, you don't have any bumps whatsoever in your work. And as you're stitching, if you're a seamstress, what you do is you kind of go back through like this, because that secures the knot. And again, if you're not used to doing that, I'm sure all mothers who have sewn or mended know that that's what they do. And I'm almost done with this. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to flip this around. Ta-da! Doesn't that look nice? Actually, one of my little tails came through, so I just go like that. Got that right off. Get all that. So now you've got your face, and what you're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things, and you're going to put this project together. You can put your crochet needle in on each side and slip stitch up 60 chains and add a pouch necklace so that you can wear it as a necklace. The other thing you can do is you could put a snap on the inside right here, sew a snap on each side so you can snap that shut and make that a little purse. You're going to, when you sew your ears on, you're going to sew your ears on to the back of the pony on each side, okay? Your ears have to go to the back. Your face is going to go like this. You're going to use the chocolate yarn and measure out using stitch markers where you want each one of the eyes. You're just going to sew those eyes in with your crochet hook. And for your unicorn top, you're going to take your gold yarn and you're going to stitch 12. Now, this has to be a really thin yarn to stitch 12, because if you stitch 12 using this type of heavy yarn, it's going to be as big as your project. So you want it to be, you know, if you're going to use a thick yarn, you probably want to stitch 6, and then you're going to do 4 rows of half double crochets when you're going back up. So row 1 will be a row of half double crochets. Row 2 will be a row of half double crochets. Then what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing. You're going to reduce, reduce, reduce till you get that point at the end. So there should be 12 rows. The first rows are all regular half double crochets, and the next rows are going to be a reduction in every row. And when you have a reduction in every row, you should end up with something that looks like that. And you can just pull it off at the point. Now, since I use this really frilly yarn, it doesn't even matter if you make a mistake because you're not going to see it. So that's the beauty. If you're working with the Girl Scouts and you want to do 12 rows or you want to do 6 rows, you can experiment with it and see how tall you want your point. Because the thing about it is, I don't know what kind of yarn you're using. And this kind of yarn, let me just show you. This kind of yarn just sparkles and spreads out. So it just makes a beautiful natural point. So I would suggest to you, you get like a decoration yarn that you can use to make a point. You could even actually sew a point on there if you want. But the bottom line is, you're going to sew the rest of your elements together with your girls. And you're going to end up with, and the other thing is when you do, one of my grandkids did this one, but you're going to end up sewing some little pink into the ears or some brown or whatever color you want to make the inside of your little pony ears. And that's how you make a great little pony pouch. Thank you.